Rilla had learned to count her steps. From her small quarters to the maintenance bay, it was exactly 412 steps if she took the main corridor. Her left leg, wrapped in a metal brace that hummed with cheap power cells, made each step a small victory. She was a Fen, one of the small fox-like beings known across the galaxy for their skill with machines. But Rilla was different from other Fen. She had been born with a leg that never grew right, twisted and weak from her first breath. Among her people, such children were usually left in the wilderness. Nature's way, the elders called it, but Rilla's mother had refused. She had hidden her daughter, raised her in secret, and taught her everything about machines and circuits. Your leg may be broken, her mother used to say, but your spirit is not. Now her mother was gone, and Rilla worked alone on Relay Station Gamma 7, a massive hub where dozens of species came together for trade and travel. She fixed broken pipes. She replaced damaged wires. She did the jobs nobody else wanted, in places nobody else wanted to go. It was enough. It had to be enough. The station also housed a small group of human soldiers. United Earth Marines, they called themselves. Rilla saw them sometimes during their patrols. 5 of them, led by a calm-faced male named Sergeant Webb. They nodded at her when they passed. She never nodded back. She had learned long ago that attention from others usually meant trouble. The trouble came in the form of the Dravik. They were large reptilian beings, standing twice as tall as Rilla. Their scales were dark green, their eyes yellow and cold. 4 young males had arrived on the station a month ago, and they had quickly made their presence known. They walked through corridors like they owned them. They pushed smaller beings aside without apology. They laughed at those they considered beneath them, and they had noticed Rilla. It started with words. She was working on a ventilation unit in Section 9 when they found her for the first time. "Look at this," one of them said. His name was Groth, and he seemed to be their leader. "A broken little Fen. I thought your kind threw away defective ones." Rilla kept her eyes on her work. Her hands trembled slightly, but she forced them to stay steady. "It cannot even stand properly," another Dravik laughed. "How does it even function?" "Barely," Groth said. "Like all broken things." They laughed and moved on. Rilla finished her work with shaking hands and took the long way back to her quarters. She told no one. Who would she tell? Who would believe a broken Fen over 4 wealthy Dravik? The harassment continued over the following days. They would appear wherever she was working. They would make comments about her leg, her brace, her worth. They called her a broken thing and defective waste and genetic garbage. Rilla endured it. She had endured worse. Her whole life had been about enduring, but then they grew bolder. She was walking through a quiet corridor when Groth stepped in front of her. Before she could react, he kicked her brace. The metal bent slightly, and Rilla fell hard to the floor. Pain shot through her bad leg. The 4 Dravik stood over her, laughing. "Look how it falls," one of them said. "Like a broken toy." "Get up, defective," Groth said. "Entertain us more." Rilla struggled to rise. Her brace was damaged, making it even harder to stand. By the time she managed to get to her feet, the Dravik had walked away, still laughing. She limped to her quarters and spent 3 hours fixing her brace. She had no spare parts, so she had to make do with what she had. The repair was ugly but functional. She thought about reporting the incident. But the station security was run by Shellens, a bureaucratic turtle-like species that cared more about paperwork than justice. They would ask for evidence. They would ask for witnesses. They would file reports that went nowhere. Rilla said nothing. She simply started taking different routes, longer paths that avoided the areas where the Dravik liked to gather. It added 200 steps to her daily journey. Her leg ached more by the end of each shift, but at least she was safe. Or so she thought. What Rilla did not know was that Private Yuki Tanaka had noticed something. The young human soldier had seen the small Fen technician flinch and change direction whenever Dravik appeared in the corridors. She had seen the fear in those large Fen eyes. "Sergeant," Tanaka said to Webb during their evening briefing, "I think something is wrong with that Fen maintenance worker. The one with the leg brace." Webb looked up from his reports. "Wrong how?" She seemed scared. Really scared. Especially around those Dravik who arrived last month. Webb nodded slowly and filed the information away in his mind. He had learned long ago to pay attention when his soldiers noticed things. "Keep your eyes open," he said. "Let me know if you see anything specific." That night, in a dark corner of the station, Groth told his friends something that made them all smile with cruel anticipation. I found where the broken thing sleeps, he said. Tomorrow, we teach it a real lesson about its place in this galaxy. 3 days passed, and the Dravik did not come. Rilla allowed herself to hope that maybe they had grown bored. Maybe they had found someone else to torment. Maybe her nightmare was finally over. She was wrong. The attacks shifted from her body to her work. She would arrive at a job site to find her tools missing. She would complete a repair only to discover that someone had sabotaged it while she was getting parts. Pipes she had fixed would mysteriously break again. Circuits she had repaired would fail within hours. Her supervisor, a Chellan named Administrator Brell, called her into his office. "Your performance has become unacceptable," Brell said, his wrinkled turtle face showing no emotion. 3 failed repairs this week. 3 complaints from station residents. "Someone is sabotaging my work," Rilla said. "If you would just check the security recordings, I do not have time to investigate your excuses," Brell interrupted. "Fix your performance, or I will be forced to terminate your contract." Rilla left his office with her head down. She had nowhere else to go. No other station would hire a disabled Finn. She would be sent back to her homeworld, where beings like her simply did not survive. That evening, she stayed late to redo all her repairs from the day. She worked until her leg ached so badly that she had to sit down every few minutes. She checked and double-checked every connection, every seal, every circuit. When she finally finished, it was the middle of the night cycle. The corridors were empty and quiet. She was halfway to her quarters when the Dravik appeared. They emerged from a storage room, blocking her path. Groth stood in front, his yellow eyes gleaming in the dim light. "Working late, broken thing?" he asked. "That must be difficult for something as defective as you." Rilla turned to go back the way she came, but 2 more Dravik were already behind her. She was trapped. "We have been watching you," Groth said, stepping closer. "Running away. Hiding. Thinking you can avoid us. But you cannot avoid what you are." "Please," Rilla said, her voice barely a whisper. "I have done nothing to you." "Your existence is an offense," Groth said. "Your people have the right idea, leaving broken ones like you to die. But your mother was weak. She let you live when she should have let nature take its course." Rilla felt tears forming in her eyes. Her mother had been the strongest person she had ever known. The bravest. The most loving. "Do not speak of my mother," she said, surprising herself with the firmness in her voice. Groth laughed. "The broken thing has spirit." "How amusing." He leaned in close. "Let me tell you what is going to happen. You are going to leave this station. You are going to go back to whatever hole you crawled out of. And if you do not, we are going to make your life here so painful that you will wish your mother had left you to die." A sound echoed from somewhere nearby, and the Dravik quickly stepped back. "Think about what I said," Groth told her. "We will be watching." They disappeared into the shadows, leaving Rilla standing alone in the corridor. She made it back to her quarters before her legs gave out completely. She sat on the floor of her small room and cried until she had no tears left. The next morning, she considered leaving, just packing her few belongings and finding transport to anywhere else. But where would she go? What would she do? This job, as terrible as it had become, was all she had. She went to work. Private Tanaka saw her in the corridor that morning. The young human noticed immediately that something was different. The Finn's eyes were red and swollen. Her movements were slower, more careful, like someone expecting to be hit at any moment. Tanaka reported this to Sergeant Webb. "I think it is getting worse," she said. "She looks like she has not slept. And she is terrified, Sergeant. I have seen that look before." Webb was quiet for a moment. Corporal Okonkwo, who was sitting nearby, spoke up. "My younger brother has cerebral palsy," she said. "He was bullied badly when we were kids. He had that same look. That hopeless look. Like he had accepted that no one was going to help him." "We do not have evidence of anything," Webb said slowly. "And we cannot interfere in civilian matters without cause." "Then we watch," Okonkwo said. "We watch closely. And when we have cause, we act." Webb nodded. "Adjust patrol routes. I want eyes on that Finn and those Dravik as much as possible without being obvious about it." That night, Private Amir Hassan was assigned to monitor the security feeds. He was a quiet young man who noticed things others missed. He settled into his chair and began scanning through dozens of camera angles, looking for anything unusual. He did not know that in a few hours, he would witness something that would change everything. The maintenance tunnel on level 4 was one of Rilla's least favorite places to work. It was narrow, poorly lit, and required her to walk nearly a kilometer through tight spaces. But the ventilation system there needed repair, and Administrator Brell had made it clear that any more failures would cost Rilla her job. So she went. The repairs took longer than expected. A whole section of air filters had degraded badly, and she had to replace them one by one. By the time she finished, her shift had ended hours ago. Her leg was screaming with pain, and she wanted nothing more than to collapse into her bed. She packed her tools and began the long walk back through the tunnel. She was about halfway through when she heard footsteps ahead of her. Heavy footsteps. Multiple sets. Coming toward her, Rilla stopped. Her heart began to pound. Maybe it was station workers. Maybe it was security. Maybe it was anyone except. Groth emerged from the darkness ahead of her, followed by his 3 companions. Their eyes reflected the dim lights like predators in the night. "Did you think we forgot about you, broken thing?" Groth asked. Rilla turned to run, but her leg would not cooperate. She managed only a few steps before one of the Dravik grabbed her from behind and threw her to the ground. Her tools scattered across the floor. Her brace made a grinding sound as it scraped against the metal. "We gave you a chance to leave," Groth said, standing over her. "But you are too stupid and broken to understand when you are not wanted." He kicked her. Hard. The blow struck her ribs, and Rilla gasped in pain. "Please," she managed to say. "Please stop. Stop." Groth laughed. "We have not even started." Another kick, this time to her back. Then another. The other Dravik joined in, their heavy feet striking her again and again. Rilla curled into a ball, trying to protect her head and her damaged leg. But they were not done. One of them grabbed her brace and pulled. Metal twisted and snapped. The brace came apart in pieces, leaving her leg exposed and useless. "Look at that," one of the Draviks said, pointing at her withered leg. "Disgusting. How did they let something like this live?" Groth crouched down and grabbed Rilla's face, forcing her to look at him. "This is what happens to broken things," he said. "They get thrown away. They get forgotten. They get—" He hit her across the face. Stars exploded in her vision. Destroyed. Rilla could not stop the tears now. She could not stop the small whimpering sounds that escaped her throat. She was going to die here, in this dark tunnel, far from anyone who might help. But what she did not know was that she was not alone. 300 meters away, in the security monitoring room, Private Hassan had been scanning through camera feeds when movement caught his eye. He zoomed in on the level 4 maintenance tunnel and felt his blood turn cold. 4 Dravik. One small fin on the ground. Kicking her. Hitting her. Breaking her brace. For a single second, Hassan was frozen. Then training took over. "Sergeant Webb," he shouted into his communicator. "Emergency. Level 4 maintenance tunnel. The fin technician is being attacked." Webb's response was immediate. "All units, converge on level 4. Full tactical. Move." In their quarters, the Marines were already moving before Webb finished speaking. They had been on edge for days, watching and waiting. Now the moment had come. Sergeant Webb pulled on his tactical vest, his jaw tight with controlled fury. He had a younger sister back on Earth. She had autism, and when they were children, other kids had tormented her mercilessly. He remembered finding her crying behind their house one day, bruises on her arms from where classmates had grabbed her. He remembered the rage that had filled him, then he felt that same rage now. "Let's go," he said. 5 humans ran through the station corridors with a speed that startled everyone they passed. Other species pressed themselves against walls, staring at the soldiers who moved like death itself was chasing them. Or like death was running toward something else. Webb reached the tunnel entrance first. He could hear sounds echoing from inside. Laughter. And underneath it, quiet sobbing. His team formed up behind him. Okonkwo, Tanaka, Reeves, Hassan, who had sprinted from the monitoring room. All of them ready. All of them angry. Webb stepped into the tunnel, his voice cutting through the darkness like a blade. "Step away from her. Now." The Dravik turned, surprised. In the dim light, they saw 5 human soldiers in full tactical gear. Weapons at their sides. Eyes filled with something ancient and dangerous. Groth straightened up and smiled. He was bigger than any of the humans. Stronger, he thought. Superior in every way. "This is not your business, humans," he said. "Just a broken animal getting corrected. Go back to your patrols." Webb said nothing. He simply walked forward. "I said go back," Groth shouted, raising his fists. Webb crossed the remaining distance in 3 quick strides and hit Groth with a single punch that contained 12 years of marine training and a lifetime of protective instinct. Groth went down like a falling tree. The tunnel echoed with the sound of Groth hitting the floor. For a moment, nobody moved. The 3 remaining Draviks stared at their leader, unable to understand what had just happened. Then they attacked. That it was a mistake. The first Dravik lunged at Okonkwo, thinking his size would give him an advantage. Okonkwo sidestepped smoothly and delivered 2 quick strikes to his throat and solar plexus. The Dravik made a choking sound and dropped to his knees. She finished him with an elbow to the back of his skull. The second Dravik swung wildly at Tanaka and Reeves. Tanaka ducked under his arm, while Reeves caught his wrist and twisted. Bones cracked. The Dravik screamed. Tanaka kicked his legs out from under him, and he crashed to the ground. The third Dravik tried to run. Hassan was waiting at the tunnel entrance. One precise strike to the nerve cluster in the Dravik's neck, and he collapsed like his strings had been cut. The fight lasted 11 seconds. Webb stood over Groth, who was trying to rise. The sergeant put his boot on the Dravik's chest and pushed him back down. "Stay," he said quietly. Groth's yellow eyes were wide with shock and pain. "You cannot do this," he gasped. "We are Dravik. We have diplomatic protection. You will be punished for quiet." Something in Webb's voice made Groth stop talking immediately. Webb turned away from the fallen Dravik and walked to where Rilla lay curled on the floor. His entire demeanor changed. The cold fury drained from his face, replaced by something gentle. He knelt beside her slowly, making sure she could see him. "You are safe now," he said softly. "Help is coming. Can you hear me?" Rilla looked up at him with wide, terrified eyes. She was shaking badly. Blood ran from a cut on her face, and bruises were already forming across her body. Her leg, without its brace, was twisted at a painful angle. "Do not hurt me," she whispered. Webb felt something break in his chest. "No one is going to hurt you ever again," he said. "I promise. My name is David. David Webb. I am going to stay right here with you until the medics arrive, okay?" Rilla did not understand. Humans were terrifying creatures from a death world. They were violent and dangerous. Everyone knew this. So why was this one speaking to her so gently? Why was his face so kind? Why? She managed to ask. Webb took off his jacket and carefully covered her with it. "Because hurting someone who cannot fight back is wrong," he said simply. "And because no one deserves what they did to you." Behind him, Okonkwo was securing the Dravik with restraints while Hassan contacted station security and medical services. Tanaka and Reeves stood guard, their faces hard. Station security arrived first, a group of Chelan officers who stopped dead when they saw the scene. For Dravik on the ground, restrained and groaning. 5 human soldiers standing over them, and a small Finn lying injured in the middle of it all. "What happened here?" the lead Chelan demanded. "We witnessed an assault in progress," Webb said, not moving from Rilla's side. "We intervened to protect the victim. The entire incident is recorded on the security camera in this tunnel." The Chelan looked up and saw the camera's light blinking. His expression shifted slightly. The medical team arrived moments later. They were gentle with Rilla, loading her onto a hover stretcher and scanning her injuries. 2 cracked ribs, multiple contusions, a sprained wrist, severe damage to her already weak leg. As they carried her toward the medical bay, Groth found his voice again. "This is outrageous," he shouted. "We are Dravik citizens. That defective creature is nothing. You have assaulted us without cause. I demand you arrest these humans immediately." The Chelan security officer looked at Webb, then at the camera, then at the battered Finn being carried away. "The footage will be reviewed," he said carefully. "All parties will remain available for questioning." Remain available. Groth struggled against his restraints. "We are the victims here." Webb finally turned to look at him. Just looked. Said nothing. But something in that gaze made Groth stop shouting. "You made a mistake," Webb said quietly. "You thought no one would care about her. You thought because she was small and disabled and alone, you could do whatever you wanted. You were wrong." He stepped closer. "On my world, we have a saying. Pick on someone your own size. It means you do not hurt people who cannot defend themselves. But you did not just hurt her. You tortured her. You humiliated her. You tried to break her." Groth tried to look away, but Webb's presence held him like a physical force. "I have faced enemies in combat," Webb continued. "Soldiers, fighters, people who could shoot back. and I respected them, even when I had to fight them. But people like you are not warriors. You are not even predators. You are just bullies. And where I come from, bullies get exactly what they give. He straightened up and looked at his team. Let security take them. We have somewhere else to be. The Marines walked out of the tunnel, leaving the groaning Dravik to the station officers. They had something more important to do. They had a friend to check on. The footage spread across the station within hours. Someone in security leaked it, and suddenly everyone was watching. They watched Rilla walk through the tunnel alone, tired from a long shift. They watched the Dravik emerge from the shadows and surround her. They watched the beating, the kicking, the destruction of her brace. They watched her curl into a ball and beg for mercy. And then they watched the humans arrive. They watched Webb put Groth on the ground with a single hit. They watched the other 4 Marines dismantle the remaining Dravik in seconds. They watched Webb kneel beside Rilla and cover her with his jacket. Species who had never given humans much thought began to look at them differently. Species who had feared human violence began to see something else beneath it. The next day, the station council held an emergency meeting. The Dravik diplomatic attaché, a pompous older male named Vorith, stood before the council and demanded justice. These humans attacked for innocent Dravik citizens, he declared. This is an act of war. They must be arrested and turned over to Dravik authorities immediately. Earth's representative, a gray-haired woman named Ambassador Linda Chun, waited until he finished. Then she pressed a button, and a large screen behind her came to life. The footage played again. Every punch, every kick, every cry of pain from a small Finn who had done nothing wrong. The council chamber was completely silent. When the footage ended, Ambassador Chun spoke. On Earth, we have a history of failing to protect the vulnerable. We have made terrible mistakes. We have allowed bullies and tyrants to hurt the weak while others watched and did nothing. These failures haunt us. They drive us. They have taught us one simple lesson. She looked directly at Vorith. We do not stand by while the helpless are beaten. We do not calculate whether the victim is important enough to save. We act, because allowing cruelty makes us as guilty as those who commit it. Vorith tried to speak, but Ambassador Chun was not finished. Your citizens were not attacked. They were stopped. They were stopped from continuing to assault a disabled maintenance worker whose only crime was existing. If Dravik law considers that behavior acceptable, then perhaps the galactic community should reconsider its relationship with your species. The vote that followed was unanimous. The 4 Dravik were expelled from the station immediately and would face charges in their home system. Administrator Brell, who had ignored Rilla's complaints and created the conditions for the assault, was removed from his position. In the medical bay, Rilla woke slowly. Her body hurt everywhere. Her leg, without its brace, felt strange and weak. For a moment, she could not remember where she was. Then she saw Sergeant Webb sitting in a chair beside her bed. She flinched instinctively. Easy, Webb said gently. You are in the medical bay. You are safe. Why are you here? Rilla asked. Her voice was small and rough. I wanted to make sure you were okay. Rilla stared at him. This made no sense. Humans did not know her. They had no reason to care about one broken fin. I do not understand, she said. Webb leaned forward slightly. What do you not understand? Why you helped me? Why you are here now? I am nothing to you. I am nothing to anyone. Webb was quiet for a moment. Then he said, my sister is autistic. Do you know what that means? Rilla shook her head. It means her brain works differently. When we were children, other kids were cruel to her. They called her names. They hit her. They made her feel like she was broken and worthless. He paused. But she was not broken. She was just different. And different does not mean less. Rilla felt tears forming in her eyes again. But this time, they were not from fear. Your leg does not make you broken, Webb continued. It just means you face challenges others do not have to face. And facing those challenges with courage makes you stronger than anyone who has never had to struggle. The door opened, and the rest of the Marines entered. Tanaka carried a container of food from a Finn restaurant on the station. Okonkwo had a small potted plant with bright blue flowers. Hassan and Reeves brought a small device. We pooled our credits, Tanaka said, setting down the food. Thought you might like something from home. The plant is for your quarters, Okonkwo added. Everyone needs something living to take care of. Hassan held up the device. And this is a new brace. Custom made. Better than your old one. Rilla looked at them all, overwhelmed. I cannot pay for this, she whispered. Webb smiled slightly. You do not have to pay for anything. This is what friends do. Friends. The word felt strange in her mouth. She had never really had friends before. Friends, Webb confirmed. If you want us to be. Rilla looked at the 5 humans standing around her bed. Deathworlders. The most dangerous species in the galaxy, according to everyone. And here they were, bringing her food and flowers and a new brace. For the first time in a very long time, Rilla smiled. Yes, she said softly. I would like that. 3 months later, Rilla walked through the corridors of Relay Station Gamma 7 with her head held high. Her new brace was lighter and stronger than her old one, and it barely hummed at all. She no longer counted her steps. She no longer took the long way to avoid anyone. She was no longer afraid. After her recovery, the station administration had offered her a position in a safer sector, away from the maintenance tunnels and late-night shifts. She had refused. Instead, she had proposed something different, something that had never existed on the station before. She became the official liaison between the maintenance department and the Marine garrison. Her technical knowledge combined with the Marines' protective presence made the entire sector safer for everyone. Workers who had once been harassed by larger species now had somewhere to report incidents. Problems that had been ignored for years were finally being addressed. But more than that, Rilla had become an advocate. She spoke at station council meetings about the treatment of disabled workers. She helped establish new protocols for reporting harassment. She pushed for better security coverage in isolated areas of the station. And every day, she had lunch with her friends. The Marines had become like family to her. Webb taught her human card games. Okonkwo shared stories about her brother and how he had overcome his challenges to become a respected engineer on Earth. Tanaka showed her human music, which Rilla found strange but interesting. Hassan was teaching her to cook human food, though she had not yet acquired a taste for anything spicy. Reeves made her laugh with terrible jokes that somehow became funnier each time he told them point one day. Webb found her sitting alone in an observation deck, looking out at the stars. Something on your mind? He asked, sitting beside her. I was thinking about what you said in the medical bay. About your sister. About being different, not broken. Webb nodded. I have been meaning to ask you something, Rilla continued. Why are humans like this? You barely knew me. You had no obligation to help me. But you ran through the station to save a stranger from her own kind's judgment of worthlessness. What? Webb was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft. Humans have not always been good at protecting the vulnerable. Our history is full of times when we failed. When we let bullies and tyrants hurt innocent people because we were too scared or too selfish to stop them. Those failures cost millions of lives. They left scars on our species that will never fully heal. He turned to look at her. We protect others now because we remember what happens when we do not. Every time we see someone being hurt, we see all the people throughout our history who were hurt while others did nothing. We cannot go back and save them, but we can save the person in front of us. We can make sure that this time, someone acts. Rilla thought about this. So your protection comes from guilt. Partly, but also from hope. Every person we protect, every life we save, it proves that we can be better than our ancestors were. It proves that their sacrifices were not meaningless. He smiled slightly. And sometimes, we make friends along the way. Rilla smiled back. Then a thought occurred to her. My mother protected me when my people's traditions said she should abandon me. She faced exile and shame to keep me alive. I never understood why until now. She sounds like a remarkable person. She was. Rilla paused. I think she would have liked you. A few weeks later, Rilla was walking through a quiet section of the station when she heard crying. She followed the sound and found a young Finn huddled in a corner. He was small, even for their species, and his right arm ended at the elbow. He looked up at her with terrified eyes, saw her brace, and seemed to relax slightly. Are you like me? He whispered. Rilla sat down beside him. What is your name? Tal. I am Rilla. And yes, I am like you. I was born with a leg that never worked properly. I know what it feels like to be called broken, to be told you do not deserve to exist. Tal's tears flowed harder. My family sent me away. They said I was a shame to them. I have nowhere to go. No one wants me. Rilla put her arm around him. I know it seems impossible right now, but let me tell you about some humans I know. They taught me something very important. What? That being different does not mean being less. That there are people in this galaxy who will protect you simply because you deserve to be protected. That you can find family in the strangest places, with the strangest people. She helped Tal to his feet, just as Sergeant Webb's team came around the corner on their patrol. Webb saw Rilla with the young Finn and immediately understood. He gave her a small nod. She nodded back. "Come with me," she told Tal. "There are some people I want you to meet." Years later, a Dravic diplomat would warn younger generations about humans. "Never harm the weak in front of them," he would say, his voice carrying the weight of hard-learned lessons. They take it personally. All of them. They will cross the galaxy to protect a stranger they have never met. And when they find you, they will make you wish you had never been born. But those who came to know humans better understood something else. The same instinct that made them terrifying enemies made them incredible friends. They did not just fight because they were strong. They fought because they remembered being weak. They protected because they knew what it meant to be unprotected. And in the corridors of Relay Station Gamma 7, a small Finn with a metal brace walked tall, surrounded by friends from a dozen different species, with 5 human soldiers who had become family. She was no longer broken. She had never been broken at all.